Do you get the sense that the Nats are going to eventually come on board anyway, net zero? There's a bit of theatre that's taking place this week, or do you legitimately think they might not get across the line?
No, I think this is a pantomime. We know the Prime Minister's already told anybody and everybody now he is taking a commitment, not a promise, not a notional target, a commitment to net 2050. And he started that process 6 months ago. This has all just been like the dance of the seven veils as he's gone through the process, but determined to get that end point.
He started by that word preferable. Is that what you mean?
Yes, correct. But when he slipped that word for the first time in, you knew this was the outcome. He was planning for Glasgow. Everything else is a bit of theatre. What we know for certain is that Barnaby Joyce is not going to give up the Deputy Prime Ministership of Australia. He will bring a majority, not all, but a majority of National Party members into a position to support. They will get, I'm guessing, close to $10 billion as a compensation package so they can run round and pork barrel their electorates. And Barnaby Joyce was elected to Parliament. People often forget Barnaby Joyce was elected to Parliament. I was there on the promise that he would never vote for the sale of Telstra. Well, it cost the Liberals $2 billion to get Barnaby to flip so that he got a regional telecommunications fund. And all we're seeing here is just a bigger version of this pea and thimble trick by Barnaby Joyce.
Right. So what would happen? I mean, do you believe that Scott Morrison would go without the Nationals? And if he did, what would happen?
Look, I think it would be brave of him to decide to split the coalition, but I don't believe he'll need to. I believe he'll get a majority of the party room. People like Matt Canavan, who've been genuine, who frankly won the last election in northern Queensland for Scott Morrison by campaigning brilliantly across Queensland and holding seats and winning seats in Queensland that Labor should have won. And now he's leaving Matt Canavan high and dry. Matt, I don't agree with Matt, but Matt is genuine about his position.
Yeah, you know where he stands.
Absolutely.
He just pointed to possible electoral problems next year.
Absolutely. I mean, Scott Morrison held up a lump of coal. It's only 2 years ago that they derided that 45% was going to be completely destroying the Australian economy, the Australian export sector. Wages would fall. It would cost an extra $9,000. I mean, all of this from just 2 years ago. So Matt Canavan is saying, how can we now say that we lied 2 years ago and say that we can go for net zero by 2050? It's an extraordinary proposition.
Does it matter if it's legislated or not, in your opinion?
Look, if I was Anthony Albanese, I'd be demanding legislation. You just can't believe what Scott Morrison says on this. He will say whatever he needs to do to get through a press conference, whatever he needs to do to get through an election. So I think Labor should absolutely hold Scott Morrison's feet to the fire on this one.
Yeah. But, I mean, they've got the 2030 targets and they're already going to comfortably beat those targets. Is that an example of it not needing to be legislated?
Well, if you want to lock in 2050, I would say you absolutely want to have legislation, because the backsliding that will take place after the election will be a joy to watch if you're into political backflips.
Is that enough of the Prime Minister to go to Glasgow now and say, look, we don't have an updated 2030 target, but we're going to beat that anyway. It's going to shift from 26 to 28% up to about 35%. And we're going to have net zero by 2050. Is that enough on the world stage to kind of keep the wolves at bay?
Well, look, I think it's enough for him politically in Australia to keep the wolves at bay in terms of those safe seats. I mean, what are we really talking about here? We're talking about Josh Frydenberg panicking about losing Kooyong. We're talking about trying to win back Zali Steggall's seat. We're talking about holding on to Wentworth again. There are Liberal seats, traditionally safe Liberal seats, that are in open revolt against Scott Morrison and holding a piece of coal. So all he is focused on is, what have I got to do to protect our existing seats? And in the end, he's gambling that all of those to the right with Matt Canavan will have nowhere to go but to vote for him. It's a really brutal, cynical political equation that he's operating on here. And Matt will be just thrown under the bus along with maybe 2 or 3 others. Maybe we'll see a resignation of a cabinet minister, but that bus is left the station. It's Scott Morrison is already effectively on the plane to Glasgow.
Yeah. All right, Stephen Conroy, good to chat as always.